lie. We're gonna start with a song. Lie, 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 lie. Sing it. Lie, 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 lie. Greek. Είμαι περήφανη πως άλλαξαν τα χρόνια απ' τις μητέρες τρομερή κληρονομιά. Η δύναμη από καρδιά και από πνεύμα μας προχωρούν να πάμε μπροστά με ελευθεριά. Η δύναμη από καρδιά και από πνεύμα μας προχωρούν να πάμε μπροστά με ελευθεριά. Sing it. And I am woman, I'm a survivor, I'm a daughter, and I am she, and I stand strong on Mother Earth's soil. I am woman, I am she. You know the words. And I am woman. Lie, 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 lie. La 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 la.
Today we will hear some wonderful and inspiring women who are willing to open their hearts and share their stories of what brings them to where they are today. The stories promise to be warts and all accounts, and to sugarcoat the journey does not help those that are to follow. It's through these voices that we start to help ourselves and each other. In my time, I've never met a strong person with an easy past. Strong women aren't born as much as they are made by the storms they walk through. Today is a time to reflect on the collective journeys in this room and to share that amongst ourselves. It's the power of the story that provides a stepping stone to more constructive dialogue and positive action, which equally acts as inspiration for the generations that come. Surround yourselves with supportive working wives groups, single women, mothers groups, allies and friends who will push you and pump you up when you need it, be there when you need them, and hold a mirror up when it's warranted. I congratulate the founder and CEO of Food for Thought, Mrs. Varvara, who has worked tirelessly over many years to bring this collection together.
It's so good to finally be here, Varvara. I think we only had 7 attempts. COVID had a way of getting in the way. Let me also start by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which I stand here today, and pay my respects to Indigenous elders past and present. As we know, sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. As a migrant to Australia, I have made it a personal and professional commitment to ensure that we address the unfinished business that remains between us as racialised settlers and the First Nations people of this country. Wow, we're here. Give this woman a round of applause. Varvara, it wasn't easy. I know it wasn't. And I know that you don't sleep because emails at 3 a.m. saying, have you got any other ideas for publishers? Because I can't find any that are prepared to invest in this. A big thank you to Bill and your family as well, because I know it takes a toll on the family around you. So congratulations is really what I'd like to start by saying. Welcome everybody, and as I look around the room, it really is a bit of a reunion with old friends, new friends and so on. I hope you take the chance to have a conversation at your tables in between. The beauty of networking at events like this, of friendships growing at events like this, cannot be underestimated. The launch of this inspirational and very long overdue book, many of us still can't believe it's the first of its kind. An oral history, her voice, Greek women and their friends. And don't our friends feel lucky to know us? Greek women were an incredibly powerful lot. It's about the personal, professional lives of 40 women living in Australia. And as you take the time, and I do encourage you to take the time to peruse this important book, it's a book full of upheaval, of loss, love, struggle, survival, and ultimately optimism. Gives us so much hope, I think, just after we've been through such an incredibly difficult journey with COVID and lockdown. I like to describe it as a collection celebrating female resilience, intersectionality, and survival. Big crowd here today, but there could have been so many more. Only this morning, Varvara was receiving messages about people needing to quarantine. We know that while we talk about this being post-COVID, we are still very much responding and dealing with COVID. This is why the live streaming is going to be so important for those colleagues and friends who really did want to be here, who wanted to personally congratulate you and the women who feature in the book, but nonetheless were not able to make it. Like the launch, this beautifully crafted book itself has borne witness to an extensive, exhausting and exhilarating process. And as I say, so many people that are here today wanted to personally congratulate you, Varvara, for such an achievement. Your passion, your persistence, your incredibly unwavering commitment to ensure that this critical and vital book be published. This is no small feat. Now, we've already heard a little bit about what the book is about, and I want to thank you, Dr. Vivianne, Nikou, for providing us with such an appropriate venue here today. Your own leadership, of course. I had to read through pages and pages of your bibliography. What an incredible achievement, and what leadership you have shown to so many of us in the Greek and beyond community. So thank you again for those opening words. Please give our host for today a big round of applause. But as you've already said, what is this book really about, and why are we all here? And I can see you all smiling, and the level of enthusiasm quite contagious. So I'm going to start with a quote from the editor of the book, of course, Varvara herself. A quote that she made in one of the many interviews that have been requested, I think, over the last few weeks, months. She says, "This collection of stories features relatable role models whose strength and resilience will inspire many generations of future Greek women and friends to come." In highlighting her own personal goal in realising this incredible piece of work, she says it was primarily to showcase the main issues concerning contemporary women in a way that other readers could relate. By joining our voices, we can be heard loudly, paving the way for younger generations to continue the battle which we began in a world where justice and equality prevails. I hope Australian organisations can value and better utilise the ambitions and potential of culturally diverse women everywhere. Like the women featured in the book, many of you here today, far too many to mention by name. We've already heard an incredible list of esteemed attendees, so I'm not going to go through who they all are. Take the opportunity to go and say hello, because I know there are people here today that have inspired and continue to inspire me and so many others. But I do want to say that there are academics, educators, entrepreneurs, writers, council members, mayors, journalists, judicial officers and lawyers, scientists, politicians. Who wouldn't want to tap into that extraordinary wealth of talent, culturally diverse with an extraordinary contribution that you all make in this room. Give yourselves a big round of applause as well, because I know, Varvara, there's a volume 2 on its way. Yes, I think your family are threatening to leave and divorce you if you do go ahead with that. There are so many, as I said, who, a variety of reasons, cannot be here today but will be joining us for live streaming. So I am going to be playing a little bit of sort of hide and seek sitting back up here as we invite some of the speakers to the podium. It's not because I'm shy, I really am not, but I am trying to keep out of the way of the technicians who are trying to make this look as seamless as possible. I also just wanted to briefly note that the book continues to attract a great deal of interest, and Varvara, correct me if I'm wrong, but alongside the interviews on SBS, Neos Cosmos, Greek City News, ABC Radio, 774 and so on, you've also been asked to consider doing similar launches in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Greece, I made that up. If the Consular General is here at all, feel free to invite us. I'm very close to Varvara, I'll be coming with her. But this interest has also apparently officially gone global with an invitation to present on a Zoom meeting to the Hellenic Women's Council of America on the 16th. And our beloved Professor Mary Kalantzis will be joining that evening. So that's just fantastic.
It's a great privilege to be invited to speak today. I'm truly humbled to be amongst the extraordinary authors of the stories in her voice, Greek women and their friends. A powerful, a moving, courageous and truly inspiring book. When Varvara first discussed the book with me, I was immediately struck by the fact that there is so little known about the experience, trials and challenges of Greek women from the second and the third generation. While there were many anecdotal stories that we could share, drawing these together into one book for a wide readership was, I thought at the time, and we can see now, such an inspired and brilliant idea. We hear too from women in cultures from India, Italy, First Nations, Lebanon, Vietnam and Hong Kong, which further enriches the narratives of this great book. The result is a deep tapestry of stories, each of which take us on a journey through finding a voice, a self, an identity, and journeys of self-revelation. At times, this makes for uncomfortable reading, for the stories in her voice do not seek to sugarcoat or avoid the obstacles, difficulties, and sheer pain at times of some of the life experiences which women recount in this book. On many of these issues, such as systemic and casual racism, domestic violence, obstacles to women's careers, toxic and discriminatory workplaces, the challenges of balancing carer responsibilities, work-life balance, mental health issues, homophobia, we wonder how these continue to shape how society functions and is organised, and even gets worse after decades of agitation and resistance. These stories chart the challenges of moving through these and many of life's roadblocks. But this is ultimately a very positive and empowering book, one which leaves the reader with a great sense of optimism and hope, as Maria said too. As we know all too well, life is neither neat nor tidy, and the choices and decisions often require courage and fortitude, not to mention resilience, especially by women. What emerges in this book is a compelling and captivating account of the strength, I think, of three themes in Greek Australian women and their friends. I'm just going to briefly talk about them here. First of all, the importance of family. However defined and discussed, parents, partners, siblings, children, grandparents, cousins, extended families, in this book are shown at various times as role models and an inspiration. The role of family is vital and crucial in who we are and how we live. Second is the transformative role of education, appropriate here Vivianne, that we're in your beautiful school here. It's power, the transformative power of education to shift the dial of opportunity, and every single one of us in this room would appreciate this, how it can shift the dial of life chances and broaden options in our journey when one's life script did not begin with privilege, power, or opportunity. And finally, the fundamental centrality, of course, of cultural identity. Greek identity figures, as you would expect, of course, quite centrally here, but so do the other cultures covered in this book. The organising questions are how cultural identity is challenged, absorbed, and endured in a new society, how it particularly impacts on women, and how it can at once work to empower and yet disempower women. Varvara poses 3 questions to her interviewees. What is the hardest thing that you have ever overcome? What is it that they wish to have known in their 20s? And what advice would they give to younger women? It is difficult here, of course, to do justice to the richness of this collection of over 40 powerful stories. Each of these provides a rich insight, and the authors offer us great messages. Reading through them, we can see we have come, all of us, a very long way, but the journey is as long and continues. It is often from those on the margins of society, like Greek migrants and migrants from a range of cultures, including Indigenous First Nations peoples, those that are the least powerful in a society, that the greatest wisdom comes. For their journey of empowerment, of finding a voice and expression, can be the most illuminating and insightful of all, because it is the most difficult and most painful often. For these reasons and for many more, this book is above all a gift. It offers the gift of wisdom, of knowledge, of insight and perception of the challenges women face as women, as Greek women, and as migrant women, as First Nations women. And I think it's finally a poignant and powerful reminder of the impact and legacy of migration and its enduring shadow cast on all of us in the past, in the present, and into the future. Her voice is a profound and timely book, for it is also a deep commentary on Australian society at large and how women have experienced it. All of us here express gratitude today to each of the authors for their honesty, and above all for their generosity in sharing their stories with us. We are all truly enriched by them.
We are here to launch one book, but the complexity, the depth and layers of each of the stories could easily have led to the launch today of a series of volumes. No doubt, it is a sociological snapshot with stories unique to a time and place, and stories that reflect a cultural diversity often not part of our narrative in Australia. And to me, they reveal courage, insight, empathy, and fierce determination. Struggles and triumphs which are the true foundations of the cosmopolitan and multicultural fabric of this country. But I don't think the book is just a mere snapshot, because the chronicles contained therein will serve as a reference book well into the future, rich in insight and analysis, and which should form the basis of further research and study. Now, as many of us who are of Greek background here today, we all love a good chat. But today's book launch starts 1,000 conversations. Some of these conversations are about uncomfortable truths. But at the same time, the book requires the other, being the reader, to listen. And reading this book required me to do a lot of listening. And what did I hear? I heard strong voices, a desire for lifelong learning, confronting racism, and raising awareness on diversity and inclusion. And if I'm left with some understandings from the reading of this book, it is that no journey in this book is linear. There's no playbook here. And nothing should be considered unconventional. But perseverance, integrity, and resilience shine through. Now, although the book is 500 pages long, even Varvara would agree that it's a starting point. I believe so. But may I say, what a momentous start it is. And I am the richer for spending time with this book and its narrators.
I'm so beyond grateful to have been given the opportunity to share this occasion with such wonderful and inspiring women. Her Voice is a book that I can relate to on a very personal level, considering that I myself come from both an ethnic and Muslim background. Despite the fact that I am only 17 years old, I have already experienced 4 different schools, living in 4 different countries, and 8 different houses. Throughout my years, I went through a lot more than what other kids my age may have experienced, whether that was bullying, racism, sexism, or conservative and limiting environments. From an outsider's perspective, it may not seem so bad, but the continuous, never-ending change at such a young age has always made me feel like an outcast. Out of all the countries that I have lived in, living in Jordan was definitely a nightmare for me. In terms of the school, it was a very religious and strict environment. It was supposed to be a co-ed school, but the boys and girls were separated into different classrooms. The school required every female student from Year 7 onwards to be fully covered and wear a hijab during school hours, and anyone who refused to do so was punished. During breaks, the boys were given the bigger yard with soccer and basketball courts, while the girls were given the smaller yard with nothing but empty space. At no point in time were we allowed to spend recess or lunch playing sports because those courts were just for the boys. I was taught to control the volume of my laughter so it didn't attract male attention, to wear subtle perfume because too much of it was considered too attractive, provocative even, and to dress modestly because if my pants were a little too tight, or if my top was a little revealing, or if my dress didn't cover my knees, I'm responsible for the actions of others, meaning that I'm inviting unwanted attention. It is the stories of these powerful, confident women in this book we are launching today that gives one the courage to stand tall, unafraid to speak, and become all I am meant to be. Can I leave you with a quote from Napoleon Hill? Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit.
I would firstly like to thank Varvara for sharing her experience as a woman and the adversity she faced as a Greek migrant woman. Reading through different stories not only humbled me, but affirmed my opinion that we women are capable of so much more than what society believes of us. As an aspiring future educator, one story in particular that resonated with me was Georgia Prittis' story. As a daughter of a sole parent, I can comment on the importance of a mother's network and surrounding herself with strong individuals. It is only now I begin to realise the difficult sacrifices that they made, like many others. I still cannot fathom that such a well-established country like Australia neglected the vulnerable in their times of most need. Thankfully today, like many women stated, they are working tirelessly to change the system. Despite all odds, these challenges, sacrifices and hardships have shaped each and every one of us today. I'm sure many, like myself, would never have pictured their lives to be what it is today.
I would like also to welcome all of you to the book launch, Her Voice, greekWomen and Their Friends. A book which I believe is dedicated to each woman in our society. A book that can give self-confidence, strength, and self-respect to all women who, for many reasons, they have chosen not to reveal the strong personality that they're hiding inside. I had the great opportunity to read the book and learn the stories of 42 very successful women. From every single story I read, I could see lots of common aspects, either with my grandmother's life, or with my mother's life, or with my own personal experiences that I have gone through until today. Each story was very exclusive and inspired me in a different way. However, there was one story that really touched my heart, and that was the story of Professor Vassou Apostolopoulos. Reading his story, I admired the fact that she never gave up. She had her children when she was 35 years old. She tried to manage children, work, and family, and it was quite difficult to have all of them under control. Eventually, she decided to take a career break for 2 years. Returning back to her career wasn't easy at all. She had to start from the beginning, getting a job at a lower level and getting her own research. It took her 3 years to work her way back up to the level she had left it. Professor Apostolopoulos' story made me realize that with dedication, every woman can create her career from the beginning and drive it back to where she had it left after having a break and enjoying motherhood. I would like to leave you with 2 quotes from Professor Apostolopoulos. You will encounter many obstacles and there will be difficult times, but don't let anything bother you. And you will get there. Just don't give up.
Everything that needed to be said about the book has been said. And everything that I needed to say, it's in the book. So I'm not going to bore you by talking about the book. But all I want to do now is thank each and every one of you. And there are people here today that I have not seen for 40 years. So thank you very, very much.
This is our network, Food for Thought, is run by a committee of volunteers, and Varvara brought us together last year and we formed a new committee. As a consequence of all her hard work, we want to present her with some beautiful roses because she's a rose in our hearts.